I want you to start thinking about these things that I'm asking. I want you to start answering these questions for yourself. I'm going to get my notes. I just printed them out, and we're going to be here for about an hour tonight, and we are going to really have a good conversation. Okay, I'm back. So let's get it started. So I want to welcome you again. My name is Radisha. I want you to be able to have a nice, quiet spot wherever you are. I want you to be undistracted as much as possible. I want you to take things in. I want you to be open about it. And I want you to have a conversation with me. I don't want to be the only one talking. I want to be able to see comments and provide feedback and know if what I'm saying makes sense to you. There's nothing to get from this live except something from you. There's nothing being sold. This isn't a sales presentation. This is just something that I'm doing from my heart because I just feel as though this is a conversation that people need to have today. Hi, Silver Fox. Thank you for coming in. Who else is here? Thank you for following me. Thank you, Jackie. So I believe that this simple conversation will be transformational. This is a conversation that more people need to have with themselves. And this is a conversation that we're having tonight. So, one of the first things is some of the most important insights you gain tonight may come from your own answers. So, I don't want you to feel as though I'm going to give you the answers to the questions for you. This is something that you are going to start defining for yourself. If you've never done it before, it's the time that you're going to start doing it now. So I want to know who decided what success looks like to you. And you can type it in the comment section. And what I'll do is I'll see if I can see them and start answering them. Who decided what success is for you? Hi, Stay Queen and Classy Lady, and Mia. I know growing up, I grew up in a religious background. I grew up in a household with my mom and dad, and I know that my father was the dominant force. I grew up with close family, extended family. It was a lot of us in the house at one point. So there were always people around. And one thing that I knew growing up was that I did not want to be around a lot of people. I found that being to myself was something that was important. And I looked at the family dynamics, and my family is a wonderful family. And I had to look at who said things, how it was dictated. Was it really true to yourself? And I really started questioning everything from young. I remember I had a teacher in the sixth grade. I was 9. And we had this assignment, and we had to write about if we could be anybody in the world, who would we be? And my answer was myself. And I explained why I would be me. And the teacher told me that I did the assignment wrong. I said, well, you never said if I could be anybody in the world besides myself, because I look at myself as being somebody. You said, if I could be anybody in the world, who would I be? And from a young girl at the age of 9, I understood the importance of being myself. The reason why I never wanted to be anybody else or have the success that anybody else had was because I didn't know what their life was truly like. From a 9-year-old girl's perspective, I could see that everything isn't always what it seems. So, who decided what success looks like for you? I want you to write that answer down. You don't have to write it here in the chat if you don't want to, but I want you to write that answer down. I know that I decided what success looked like to me. And when I didn't comply or I did not agree with that of my upbringing, it was a bit of friction, but the friction, it was going to have to eventually smooth itself out. So the first thing is success is often inherited, not chosen. So I want you to write that down for me, please. Success is often inherited, not chosen. Think about that. Family values, family traditions. Sometimes you may come from a family of doctors. You may come from a family of people who did things a certain way. You might do things the way that your parents did it, or what their expectations are. One thing that I found to be so heartbreaking at this age is that I would go to business events and people will still be trying to live up to the expectations of people who passed away already. And I'm thinking that person lived their life according to their terms and conditions. You are 30 something, 40 something, 50, 60, 70 plus. Why are you living to the expectations and the definition of success from another person? It makes no sense. Why are you trying to make somebody proud who has already passed away? That makes no sense. Thank you for joining. It's Francine, the Slay Queen. There's so many of you on here. Miss Cupcake Baby, Glow, Brown Eyes. Thank you all for joining. So think about that. Are you living to make somebody else proud, or are you living to make yourself proud? What I want you to take away from tonight's conversation is you need to live in a way that makes you proud. You have to make yourself proud. If you're an adult, that is your job to define what success looks like for you and to make yourself proud. Does that make sense? All right. So we're not here living to the expectations of parents anymore. We're not living to the expectations or requirements or the negative things that they said or teacher said. We have to be careful, even in religious communities, allowing them to define what success looks like for us, because sometimes people take things and they twist it in a way that is not true or authentic, right? We have to look at culture and define what is appropriate for our life based on the culture that we've been brought up in. I'm from a Bahamian background. Now they say we're part of the Caribbean, right? So I had to look at things from my culture and what was it that I would like to embrace and what things I have to let go. Then if you're a person from a diverse background, a mixed background, your culture becomes more complex because you may have it from both parents. And then you have your own culture, right? So you have to decide what success looks for you, especially when you have so many influences there. You look at social media, and that can be a horrible place to take advice from on what success looks like or how to decide it, because most of that is just acting and drama and theatrics, right? I don't ever come on here and tell people this is how I live, this is my lifestyle. I get people to define what it should look like for them. Because when I live every day and I go to sleep at night, I go to sleep in peace regardless of what's going on around me. And then you also have to be careful of success being defined for you by employers and friends. So, question, and I want you to write this down. How much of your current definition of success belongs to you? Are you willing to share that in the comment section? Now, I will tell you, all of the definitions of success for me is based on me. And I define and I redefine what success is on a regular basis. So I remember that I always said that if I ever become a mom, there were certain standards and expectations that I had for my life. Once I fulfilled those, that was success for me. So it wasn't a particular dollar amount that I was looking for. All I knew was that I wanted to make sure that I stayed home for at least the first year of my child's life, right? I wanted to make sure that my child went to a very good private school. I wanted to make sure that when I did decide to have a business, because I didn't want to go back to work, I wanted to be able to be a business professional while my child was in school. And then a mom when they're home, I wanted to make sure that I was able to take my kids to school every day and pick them up from school and not ever miss an important event. That was success for me. And I accomplished it. Put my child in a very good school, very good private schools. So took him to school every day. Did not miss any important events because the boss told me what I could or could not do. Picked him up from school, his activities, and those different things. So from my definition of success, I lived a successful life. So all of the definition that I had for success, I accomplished and was true to me. Now I want to know, and I want you to answer this question. What expectations have you accepted without examining? Well, I'll go ahead and share. I know growing up, it was a very male dominant perspective, and women were more so subjects, and you needed to be compliant. I guess it's the nicest way that I could put it, right? And when I evaluated that, I just knew that was something that I did not want. I did not want to be treated like property. I did not want to be spoken to or treated like a child. I did not want to be dominated by anybody. So when I looked at the expectations of what were the standard or the norm, it was something that I had to examine and realize that it wasn't for me, and that it's fine that it wasn't for me. So remember, you have to answer this question today. Who decided what success looks like for you? How much of your current definition of success belongs to you? And what expectations have you accepted without examining? I examined everything. I examined things that I were taught about religion. I was examining things that I taught about gender roles and biases. I examined what people said a mother should be, or the different things that I should do, or what I should do by a certain age. And I realized, although it may have been true for that person or those people during those times and seasons, it wasn't anything that I had to embrace. So are you embracing things because that's what you were taught to do, and that's the way it always has been? That's another question that I want you to be able to answer for yourself. Thank you for joining people, Sandra and Anna Lee. All right, so when it comes down to most people, they tend to live reactively, and that's something that they don't tend to realize. Anything that I have in my life, it's been intentional. It's been something that I designed in advance. That's one of the reasons why I'm not married, is because I analyzed life and I realized that I wasn't going to do things just because that was what I was told I should do. So most people are living reactively. When you wake up, you go to work, you commute to work, you do these tasks, you pay your bills, you handle emergencies, and you repeat. But there's nothing really intentional in there. There's nothing really intentional about how you live your day. So what part of your life are you going to design intentionally? My days are structured very intentionally. And the thing was, all these things didn't happen overnight. I had to learn how to do these things over time. I'm not in my 20s and 30s anymore. But even in my 20s and 30s, these were things that I started doing bit by bit, and always questioning and analyzing and challenging views that I had on things. So what part of your life was intentionally designed, besides going to school, besides choosing your career, like on a day-to-day basis? I know I have certain standards and requirements, and I know that if it collides with something that's important to me, the answer is easily no. Because it's my life. I have terms and conditions to my life. I have a vision for my life. And I define life for what it is for me. So you have to be able to do that for yourself. You have to write this down also, please. This is your life. So you are the only one responsible for how your life turns out. I look at parenting as an 18-year project. And listen to the entire thing that I'm going to say. It is my job to raise my kid to be a responsible adult and member of society, but it is not for me to dictate to him what it is that he does in life. So even when people come and they meet my son, they're like, oh, you're going to do this, or they put their expectations on them. And I always say, pause, no. It is not for us to define what he's going to do. I said he could create something new, a new career path. My goal is to give him the best of everything it is that I can give him, to give him every legal and moral advantage in life. And it's for him to define what he wants to do. I've never told my son, this is what you have to do in life. I've never told my son that he has to go to college or university. The only thing that you need to have is that he needs to have a plan. So I'm giving him the ability to define what success looks like for him and his idea of success. And my idea of success is totally different. Have you ever been given that freedom to do that? And as long as you're an adult, you're 18 and over, you can go ahead and do that. So I want you to give yourself permission today to release the expectations that other people have of you and for you, and to start to liberate yourself from that weight and the burden of making other people happy when most of the time they're not even happy themselves, or they haven't even done some of the things that they're expecting of you. So everywhere has terms and conditions. Using social media has terms and conditions. Jobs have terms and conditions. Credit cards have terms and conditions. What are your terms and conditions? You need to know what those are like so that you can be able to decide on what success is. You have to look at your relationships. Are you in there by default just to satisfy a need? Are they accomplishing something for you? Look at your health. Look at your finances. Look at your faith, your career, your family traditions or the lack thereof in daily routines. One thing that I've done as a mother is I don't subscribe to family traditions just because that's the way that it's always done. So in my household, we create our own traditions, and our own traditions override any other tradition. So just because the family is doing it does not mean that we are going to partake in it, because that's not a successful life to us. That's burdensome. Success has many different definitions, and you have to look at that in that particular area of your life. So let's look up something. Success is accomplishing a desired goal or an attainment of favorable results. What is a goal that you've accomplished recently or you've received favorable results? That's all success is. And that can be for different areas of your life. So you don't want to just have success in one area of life. You want to have it in all areas. Accomplishing goals, you have goals for those individual areas. So you might have a good relationship, but horrible health. Or you might have amazing finances, but your faith is lingering, is wandering. So you have to have goals and know what it looks like that's favorable in that area. So when we say success, it's attaining goals. It's having favorable results. It's not just a career-oriented type of thing. So many people never live intentionally or design any of these areas. So who decided what success looks like for you? How much of your current definition of success belongs to you? What expectations have you accepted without examining? And what part of your life have you intentionally designed? So the first topic that we discussed was success is often inherited, not chosen. The second topic was most people are living reactively. Now, the third topic, for those who are following along and taking notes, goals versus standards. This is going to be important for you. Everyone has goals. Few people have standards. So I'm going to give an example between a goal and a standard. A goal says, I want financial freedom. But a standard is, I don't want to spend money that I don't have. A goal may be, I want better health. But a standard could be, certain habits are not negotiable. Another one could be, a goal could be, I want strong relationships. But a standard could be, I refuse to tolerate certain behaviors. You see the difference? There are certain things that I have no tolerance for. So do you have goals and standards for how you are going to live your life and how you live it every day? So the next question that I have for you is, are you relying on goals to create a life that actually requires standards? Because you don't compromise standards. People set goals all day and don't accomplish them. But do you have standards that you abide by? The next point is the cost of decisions and indecision. And when you choose not to do something, that is still a decision. There are bad decisions that have cost, but indecisions have cost too. So if you're indifferent, like you stay too long doing certain things, you're waiting too long, you're waiting for the right conditions. I can tell you that conditions sometimes will never be favorable. You have to do things where you are with what you have. And I realized that when I was perfectionist, that was one of the worst times of my life because I knew everything, but I didn't implement it because I saw flaws in what I did. But people who didn't know as much as me were going ahead doing things and they were getting the results. So don't let perfection or having to have everything right or knowing everything get in the way of you taking the next step to attain a goal or to have a favorable outcome in some area of your life. Another aspect of the cost of decisions and indecision is avoiding difficult conversations. Embrace difficult conversations, just do them respectfully. Sometimes those are the things that are most pivotal is when you face things head on that are important. And then when you refuse to choose, that's like, let's say we're going out. What do you want? What do you want? You tend to do that in every area of your life. If you can't make a decision in one area, you might not be able to make a decision in another. And those who are able to make decisions tend to get you to do things that they want you to do to accomplish their goals, while you can't get anything done for yourself. So we've talked about success. Who decided what success looks like for you? How much of your current definition of success belongs to you? What expectations have you accepted without examining? We've spoken about how success is often inherited and not chosen. Most people are living reactively. I've asked the question, what part of your life was intentionally designed? And I've spoken about goals versus standards. And the question for goals versus standards is, are you relying on goals to create a lifestyle that requires standards? So now we're talking about the cost of indecision and what decisions need to be made today. So let's think about it. What do you need to begin and what needs to come to an end? That could be probably the most important question that you would need to answer today. So let's look at your calendar. Your calendar reveals your priorities. Do you use a calendar? I remember when my son was in school and I saw like moms, they used to be able to travel with their kids or these families. I was like, oh, how did you get to do that? You know, I was just like, I didn't even realize a holiday was coming up. I didn't realize a holiday was coming up. And one of the parents told me, oh, when the school calendar comes out every year, what I do is I go ahead and I put those dates for the times off in my phone and my calendar so that I can plan trips, so that I can look for flights, etc. And as simple as that was, I had never thought about that. And so I learned from that parent that your calendar reveals your priorities. So I want you to pull out your phone and look at next week. Is it arranged intentionally? Is it arranged based on the things that you need, want, and desire? What does it say? If a stranger looked at your calendar, what would they conclude is most important to you? That's a question. That's another question for you to write down, because you probably won't be able to answer all of these while we're on here today. But that's fine. Is there something that you always wanted to do? I can share with you that I always wanted to be able to rest. I always wanted to be able to have like one day off where I didn't do anything. But I didn't see how that was possible. And then I realized I had to be intentional. And so When the sun sets on Friday, that is my family time. I tell people, don't call me, don't text me, don't send me a smoke signal, a bat signal. Don't do nothing. Now, if you have an emergency, call on the Lord in prayer, call 911 or call somebody else, but don't call me. It was so hard to block off a complete day of doing nothing. That was hard. That means that we had to start saying no to things. So as much as I loved my son being able to go to cooking classes, and as much as we love doing certain things, we had to learn what to say no to. We had to look at our calendar to see what our true priority was. And when we started saying no to things, we were so grateful that we did that because we finally were able to rest, to have a time of clarity, to have a time of just not doing anything. And so, how did I accomplish that? We realized, okay, certain days coming up, we would start purchasing all of the food that we needed for the weekend. There's no cooking. Make sure you have the house done. Make sure you have certain things done by a certain day and time. So when we got home, all we had to do was go home, take a bath, and decompress. And that is on our calendar, regardless of what happens now. That's like today, I'm talking to you right now, and it's 7:31 Eastern time. Let me tell you, we're getting off here at 8 o'clock. Because after 8 o'clock, that's when it's time for me to start my rituals, my routine, my prayers, so that I can relax and I can have that just completely consecrated time of having no one around me, no one in my home. And that is a successful weekend for me. I don't wish that I had that weekend anymore. I create that weekend all the time. And the moment that weekend is done, I start purchasing things for the upcoming weekend so that I keep this routine and ritual here. And that gives me a peace of mind regardless of what's going on, because life can try to take you over. So my calendar reveals my priorities. It has what's important there. So if a stranger looked at your calendar, what would they conclude is most important to you? Would it be work? Would it be family? Would it be going out with friends? What would it be? And I know, unfortunately, for some people, their job, etc., is more important than their family. That's what success looks like for them, you know? No judgment here. The sixth topic. So, success is often inherited, not chosen. Most people are living reactively. Goals versus standards. The cost of decisions and indecision. Your calendar reveals what your priorities are. And now your life is your greatest project. Spend months planning vacations. People spend months, sometimes their lifetime, from the time they were kids, planning weddings. People prepare for years for their careers. But if you looked at your life as a project, would you approve the current version? If your life were a project, would you approve the current version? People spend years planning for careers, months planning weddings, months planning vacations, yet many have never designed their life. Have you designed your life? And if you did, would you approve the current version of it? So I want you to have 4 columns. I want you to write what is currently working. What is working for you? Can you write that down for me? What is working for you? That's column number 1. Column number 2, what needs to begin? Four columns. Column number 1, what is working for you? Column number 2, what needs to begin? Column number 3, what needs to end? What needs to end? That's column number 3. Remember, only you can answer these questions. You're not getting the answers from Radisha on how to live your life. I'll guide you through questions and thoughtful things, but you have to do this work for yourself. And number 4, what decisions need to be made? The first question out of the 4 columns is what is working? The second question is what needs to begin? The third question is what needs to end? And the fourth question is what decision needs to be made? Have you thought about these? Put something in the comment section and let me know you're paying attention. Let me know what's the question that's the most challenging or the hardest for you. Which question is most challenging for you? Which one is the hardest one? Let's be honest. Have you thought about these things before? It's okay if you shy. Once you're paying attention, this is like a little lounge. You come undistracted. Come to just take what it is that you need, want, or desire. Then practically apply it in your life and live an amazing life. So if nothing changed over the next 5 years, no, I wouldn't even say 5 years. 5 years sounds so far. If nothing changed over the next month, let's bring this back into reality, because so often we look at things so far off in the future that we don't think about what's important right now. I want you to be present in your current reality. If nothing changed within the next month, would you be able to accept the consequences of your current decisions? And where would you end up? I know that regardless of what my age is and how much gray hair I have, as long as I have breath in my body, I will always strive to be a better version of me, to look at life in a different way, to do something differently. The purpose of tonight is not to tell you what success looks like. It's to have you to answer those questions for yourself. It's to encourage you to examine whether the definition you're pursuing is actually your own. A fulfilling life isn't built by accident. It's built intentionally. Even if you don't accomplish your goals the first time, the goal is to keep trying. You might get discouraged, but keep trying. You don't want to be an amazing student at life and a horrible student about yourself. Like people, they are great students in school, but they've never studied themselves. That's something that I teach people all the time. You have to learn to study yourself. People know their partners, they know their parents, they know their siblings, they know their coworkers, they know everybody else except themselves. I remember I used to interview women from around the world. And one of the questions I would ask that they never had an answer to was when I would ask them the question to tell me who they were. Like, tell me who you are. And they'll tell me, oh, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm this. But then when you start asking questions about themselves, they couldn't answer it. And you know what they did? They always cry because they never took the time to study themselves, who they are, their needs, wants, and desires, what they actually like. They never gave themselves permission to truly live. And that's one thing that I've always desired to do, and I've done it. And my idea of what success looks like isn't anybody else's own, and that's fine. That's like, I'm not a party person. I'm not a sociable person that always wants to be out. But somebody else may say, oh no, I have to. I love hosting parties. I love doing this. I love doing that. But that's a good life for them. It's okay to have a life where you're just to yourself. What is favorable for you? What is something that you truly want to accomplish? I remember I moved out of the house when I was 18. I didn't move out of the house because I was fast. I moved out of the house because I wanted peace. That's what I wanted. And that's how come I've always been able to question things, because I've spent so much time with myself. And I'm able to help people and guide them and do the same thing. And it doesn't make a difference what their age is. They could be younger than me, they could be older than me. I remember there was a pastor before, he told me that I gave him better marriage advice than any of his other friends in ministry. And I'm not even married. So when people tell you, oh, I'm not going to take advice from someone who's not married, wisdom can come from anybody. Exactly. So I want you to remember that life is built through intentional decisions. You have to have clear priorities. You have to have meaningful standards. And you have to have personal responsibility. Instead of proving how loyal you are to other people, you need to prove how loyal you are to yourself. Many of us are so loyal to other people, but we're not loyal to ourselves. That should be your number one priority. It's being loyal and faithful and committed to yourself and living a truly authentic life. Who decided what success looks like for you? And more importantly than anything else, if it wasn't you, what are you going to do about it? If you didn't determine what success looks like for yourself, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to do anything about it? So let's recap, because time is winding down. Our time is almost up for tonight. So what was the first thing that we talked about? Let's get these notes back over here. The first thing that we spoke about, and again, for those who came in later, I'm Radisha Francis, and I'm just someone who loves teaching. I love to have people think deeper than they have, to consider things that they've never thought of. I like to give people permission, the permission that they need to give themselves, on how to live a truly successful and authentic life. I like to just have important conversations, deep conversations. And I don't like to talk about the things that people typically talk about, or trendy topics, or cliche things, or anything like that. I can't stand superficial conversations. I love conversations that prompt change, those that encourage and inspire change. It's nothing like living, seeing people walk around with their eyes wide shut. That's what I call it. It's so sad and depressing to see that most people never really question anything, and they live like on autopilot. And it's so sad to see that. But it's so beautiful and amazing to see when people come to life and they don't live on autopilot anymore. It's not just, oh, I'm an adult, I got to pay bills, I got to work, I got to take care of my family, I got to do this. And it's just like doing, but not living. You see what I'm saying? That's like eating just to eat, but not eating for satisfaction. It's doing things just because you're supposed to, without ever second guessing or thinking about it, Like one of my sisters, she always says she can't be an entrepreneur. She said, she said she likes her paycheck on time, and she doesn't want to have to think about it. She's like, Rudy, she could be an entrepreneur. I'm not an entrepreneur. She's a doctor. So her idea of success is not entrepreneurship. Now, with her being a doctor, there's certain things that I see that she can do in her business. And I was like, okay, well, I'm looking at these product lines because I love creating product lines and stuff like that. That's just something that I've been doing. Apparently, from a kid, I didn't realize that I was developing businesses from a kid. That's something that I've been doing. And I've seen that have taken decades for people to catch up with the things that I was dreaming of as a kid, that I was discouraged from doing, right? So she has her idea of what success is, and I have my idea of what success is. And both of those are completely fine. That's like relationships. There is no cookie cutter answer to what a successful relationship is. So when you decide on what success looks like to you, you have to be the person who thinks, okay, well, who am I? What is my nature? What are the things that I love? What are my needs? What are my wants? What are my desires? What are my non-negotiables? What are my deal breakers? You have to decide that. So when you look at a relationship, nobody could define what a healthy relationship is for you. No one can define what a healthy relationship looks like for you. So who decided what success looks like for you? That is a very important question that you really need to answer. What does a healthy relationship look like to you? Remember, that was the first question that I asked you to write down. And remember, the first talking point that I shared was success is often inherited, not chosen. We're not here living for our parents anymore. You're grown. And your kids shouldn't be living up to your expectations either when they're grown. They should be making themselves proud. Uncommon belief for some. You have to examine what you were taught and what is true. You have to start questioning things. That's like growing up with a religious background. I had to start questioning things. I questioned everything. And it's not in a negative way, because whoever controls your thinking controls you. Write that down. Whoever controls your thinking controls you. I've taught my son to question everything. He does not have to believe or accept anything just because I said it. I've seen parents manipulate their children in gross ways. But I told him, when you review things, look at the source that you're getting the information from and make sure that it's a reputable resource. So I teach my son to think for himself. So even I don't manipulate my own son. So the same thing that I'm teaching you guys is what I teach as a mother to my child. Whoever controls your thinking controls you. Who controls your thinking? How much of your current definition of success belongs to you? All of my definition of success belongs to me. And it's always being refined and redefined. Some things may be added to it and some things may be taken away. Like now, the goals that I had before, I liked working. I would normally work like a couple of days a month, and I would be able to earn an income for the entire month, right? So that's something I was able to do. So I would teach food safety and sanitation. I'm an international instructor and proctor. And if I had like 2 classes a month or whatever, that was income for what a person would have to go to work 5 days a week, all month to get. So my goal was to hit a certain amount, and I wouldn't have to work for several months. As a young mom, that was my definition of success, to be able to get a few classes, go into companies and do their training, and be able to just be home and chill and take care of my kid. Is that my definition of success now? No. I still like to be able to do that, but now I've added things and layers to it. Like, one of my goals is to travel to every country in each United States to learn more about God through people and food. So now one of my goals, a successful life, looks like traveling more often, learning more, because the more that I travel, the more that I learn and understand life and people. So when I travel as a student of life. instead of just going to visit destinations and shop. Shopping isn't even on my list of things to do when I travel. I go for food and different stuff like that, but just like to shop, no. So there are expectations that people had of me that I don't accept, because that was another question that I gave you guys. What expectations have you accepted without examining them? And I realized that there were some things that I had no business believing in the first place. And I won't say specifically what all of them are, because I don't want for you to start thinking in that particular lane or vein when it could mean something completely different for you. What goals are you pursuing because you genuinely want them versus because they're what they're expected? I didn't ask you that question earlier, and I was supposed to. So I'm glad that I went back and read this. So that's another question to write down, please. We have 10 more minutes together. What goals are you pursuing because you genuinely want them versus because they're expected? So one of the things was my son. I remember, especially during the pandemic, I had him, since we weren't going out and doing things for the summer, I told him for a certain amount of time, I just want you to explore what your interests are. So he had permission to research things, to explore his interests. I did not tell him what to do. My son, at the age of 10, taught me how to set up our family trust. At 10, I didn't know anything about that. But then at 10, we really didn't have the internet like that either. The internet was just coming out. Growing up, the internet was a new thing. I know I'm showing my age. We most definitely didn't have YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But I allowed my son to explore things that he's interested in, that he generally wants to know, instead of what people think he should be as an expectation. That's like, oh, you're going to take care of your mom. No, he's not. It is not his responsibility to take care of me as a mother when he gets older. No, he's not. It is my responsibility as a parent to make sure that I set him up for success and for him to have an inheritance. That's my idea of success. My idea of success is not raising my son for him to become successful and come back and take care of me. To me, that's just not my idea of success. I won't say anything much about that because I don't want to offend anybody who might have that belief system. The second thing that we spoke about and recapping are most people are living reactively. So what part of your life have you intentionally designed in every area of my life? From the time that I wake up in the morning, you know what? I'm going to show you something. I have something here that I designed that I follow in the daytime. So it's design your day, own your choices, life on your terms, begin your day here. So when I begin my days, I'm going to give you a little glimpse into my morning routine. I start with a spiritual practice first. I wake up, I pray, I thank God that whatever comes to me during that time, I start off by gratitude and praying. That's very important to me, right? So I'm not living reactively because I have a starting point and a flow for my day. So regardless of how I feel, I'm not being led by feelings. I'm not being reactive. I'm living intentionally. Then in the morning, there's stillness. I'm not rolling out of bed to go on my phone. I'm not scrolling social media. I'm sitting there in stillness and quietness. I'm centering myself. I'm thinking about what dream did I have last night? What is it that I need to remember? Then having things prepared, I may look at my goals, my aspirations. I'll look at things that are important to me. I just put these up now. I have to go ahead and put the goals that I have on here. But that's like one picture of me before when I hit my fitness goal. And so I had the shape that I wanted and everything like that. So this is one of my goals, aspiration, to get back in shape like I was like that before. But at this moment, that's not something I'm able to do for certain reasons, right? Then I'll have intellectual enrichment. I'll go ahead and maybe read a book, listen to a podcast, listen to an audiobook. There's something that I need to feed myself before I start interacting with other people. So I tell people that you have to feed yourself before you feed other people. So I wake up about 4 o'clock in the morning and I spend time with me. I invest time in me. There are things that I do for me before I ever get ready to deal with the world. Before I'm mommy or mom, before any of those things. You understand? Then I may get some type of activity. So there's something that's important to me that I do, and I call it walks with God. So in the morning time and in the evening, it's my goal to do it twice a day. Hi, thank you for listening. I go ahead and I have walks, but they're not for fitness. They're for conversations with God. They're for clarity. Those are so important to me because when I started doing that, my life completely changed. Regardless of how chaotic life has been, those walks and conversations with God have been top tier. So instead of living reactively, I have a flow, a routine, rituals that I do that keep me centered and grounded. Do you have something like that for yourself? And then I have an itinerary for the day. So I know what to say yes to. I know what to say no to. I know what's important to me because I planned it. So people tend to think that because you work for yourself, you just have the whole day to yourself. Oh, you never do. You work for yourself. You can do this. No, it's like, no, I have these different things to do. Do you have your itinerary for today, for that day? Because remember, I'm talking about how most people are living reactively. Are you doing that? Or are you focused? And then in the evening time, I also have a routine instead of living reactively to reframe my day, think about what worked, what did not work. You understand? What am I going to do tomorrow? Giving thought into tomorrow, planning for tomorrow, maybe getting my clothes prep, whatever important things done. If I'm going to have a presentation, do I have the devices charged? What is it that I have to do? If I have a class that I have to teach, am I prepared for that class? Do I have those things in order? And then a spiritual reset. So it's important to have a spiritual set in the morning and a reset in the evening, like what I'm getting ready to do in a few minutes. Why I told you guys I got to get off there at a certain time because I have a Friday routine and ritual that is very important to me. And that gives me peace of mind that regardless of what chaos I have going on, I will always find peace. I walk outside. I live in a nice area and I like to walk outside. Where I live on the inside is nice too, but I walk outside. Like it could be freezing cold, it could be extra hot. I'm walking outside. Then I also look at my accomplishments, like the things that I've accomplished. I write down any observations or insights that I gathered that day, and I take notes. And then I also leave time to have things, just to have peace and spontaneity, not having my schedule always cluttered with things. The third thing that we spoke about, and I'm going to wrap this up so that we can sign off, is that the first question was TikTok trying to make me fix something. Okay. So the first question is, no, not the first question. The first question is, who decided what success looks like for you? Success is often inherited, not chosen. How much of your current definition of success belongs to you? What expectations have you accepted without examining it? The other question that I posed to wrap up for tonight is what goals are you pursuing because you genuinely want them versus because they're expected? The first topic was success is often inherited, not chosen. The second topic, touching on point that I touched on, was most people are living reactively. Then I said, what part of your life was intentionally designed? The third talking point was goals versus standards. And I gave examples of what goals versus standards are. Then I said to you, are you relying on goals to create a life that actually requires standards? The fourth topic was the cost of decisions and indecision. The question for that one was, what decision have you been postponing? The fifth talking point for tonight was, your calendar reveals your priorities. The question posed there was, if a stranger looked at your calendar, what would they conclude is most important to you? The sixth talking point was your life is your greatest project. The question for that one is, if your life were a project, would you approve your current version? The final thing for you to do was 4 columns with 4 questions. 1, what is working? 2, what needs to begin? 3, what needs to end? And 4, what decision needs to be made? And in closing, if nothing changed over the next 30 days, because I want you to be present, not looking far for the future because you always feel like you have time. If nothing changed for you over the next 30 days, the next 4 weeks, accept the consequences of your current decisions, where would you end up? So the purpose of tonight and recapping was not to tell you what success should look like. It was to encourage you to examine whether the definition you're pursuing is actually your own. Is Tika Rose actually on here tonight? She does the most amazing events. Let me tell you, every event that I've been to that she's done and designed has been top tier. I saw it said that she was on here. Let me tell you, if you ever could get her to design an event for you, that is the person to design the event for you. And finally, a distinctive life is built intentionally, is not by accident. It's built through intentional decisions, clear priorities, meaningful standards, and personal responsibility. So I'm going to leave you with this question. Who decided what success looks like to you? But more importantly, if it wasn't you, what are you going to do about it? So I'm Radisha Francis, and I hope that you enjoyed this evening with me. I don't normally come online, but I've been challenging myself to do so. And I've been grateful every time I have because someone always got something from one of the events. So if there's something that you want me to talk about on another event or another live, send me a message about it and I'll do my best to address it. Until next time, good night. And I hope that you really learned something great and important and you took something valuable away. Good night. Thank you so much for joining me. I actually have 2 more minutes, I'll spend 2 more minutes. Do y'all have any questions you wanna ask me? Because I still see there are a few people on. Ask me those questions while you can, especially before TikTok shuts me off, because TikTok already gave me a warning saying that I was gonna close down. And I still have Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram on also. So go ahead and ask me whatever question you wanna ask me. Don't be shy. I don't look intimidating. I'm not intimidating. Is there anything that you want to ask me, like that main question, or something that's really been bothering you? No? Okay. Well, good night.